Good day, everyone. How the heck are you doing out there? Somewhere in the world. Maybe you're up on top of a mountain or floating on a raft in the Caribbean or sitting in a very cold apartment in New York City. The good news is spring is coming, and we're here today to talk about the future and how absolutely wonderful it can be once we liberate ourselves from our unfortunate shackles of normality. So here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about my new contribution, my 35th book called Quantum Human. And this is a book I actually worked on for more than 10 years. And I started with one of my very close good friends, Dr. Valerie Hunt, who at 98 ascended and went to heaven. And I miss her dearly. She was a quantum physicist, a quantum scientist way back in the 1930s and 40s, and was the first female professor they ever hired in the University of California Systems in 1948. And she really got me to challenge my own belief system. And we're going to talk about that and all the amazing things that have happened in science that you don't get to hear about because the guys that have control of the money don't want you to know about it. So here we are. Let's start off with Quantum Human. Beautiful planet that we live on. The most minute things are complex and extraordinary. The sunflower grows in 7 weeks to 15 foot and has thousands of seeds on it. The invisible energy fields that project from one planet to this planet, it all is part of who you are. And humans have worked really, really, really hard to find a way to detach themselves from that. But guess what? We're going to bring you all back to the power you have by tuning in to the multiple universes. The human being is not solely biochemical. Remember, what they've done is taught you that your body's chemistry and that everything about your body has to be measured on blood profiles, and they completely ignore the important fact that your body is energy more than anything else. And that energy is really at the core of every cell. And remember, you're made of cells. So your entire body is little cells that behind it are energetic photonic frequencies. Our cells vibrate within an ocean of electromagnetic forces, influencing health at the quantum level. So we very much work here with energy medicine. We were the first institute on the planet back in 1980 that brought that in as one of our departments. Modern environments contain complex energy patterns, pulsating music, EM waves, and subtle biofields. And so things that man made, by the way, as well as what nature has, are intermixing like a big soup. And sometimes that soup doesn't work out. So this is why we saw a major surge when cell phones became fully engaged back about 30 years ago in cancers and neurological problems and brain confusion. Immersion in the energetic fields, these currents influence every single part of your body. And so if we find the right currents that may affect the liver or the gallbladder or the brain, we utilize those. And this is really the future of healthcare, the future of medicine. Harmonics, they used these thousands of years ago in the more civilized and indoctrinated cultures that really understood the subtlety and the benefit and had gratitude of the existence of life that they were part of, not controlling. Harmonics and frequency patterns affect cellular metabolism and intercellular communication. Yeah, that's true. Cells communicate with one another. And if they have a very nice language and they're fed well and rested well and hydrated, guess what? You have strong systems in the body. And when you have strong systems, it wards off disorder, disease, and more important than anything else, premature aging. Coherent energetic input, by the way, which we use here to focus in on, can actually alter the state of physical well-being. So you actually can see things move through the body with frequency more than anything else. We're using now a form of readjustment of the bones with one of our partners that only uses high sound pitches that adjust the body better than a chiropractor and osteopathic doctor can. Harmonics and frequency patterns are really the future. Now what we're going to talk about is etheric and biological bodies. So we all talked in spiritualistic ways and religious ways about etheric bodies. But they're a real thing. As a matter of fact, mainstream doctors know it's a real thing, but they don't really put two and two together. Because when you, by the way, look at an MRI, magnetic resonant imagery, we're looking at the energy fields coming from the brain, and they can determine and diagnose from that what's going on in the brain. We also have ultrasound, which is actually measuring different growth patterns within the body, abnormal or normal growth patterns. And so distribution in the biofield can precede physical symptoms. So we can actually see very subtle changes occurring and predict what may happen a year or 10 years down the road. A disorder may come if we don't get the frequencies orderly again. It's really amazing. Next, this is what you look like. I want you to actually spend a moment looking at that. So this is a actual virtual picture of a person and the energetic movement that's moving through the system itself. And when you have that happening, it's for us to prevent the blockages. We're not only talking about things like cholesterol and clotting, we're talking about the energy blockages that the Asians thousands of years ago came up with a name for, and that was meridians. And so acupuncture, acupressure, touch therapy, all of these things work. And as a matter of fact, the top institutions in the world today, like Harvard and Oxford, have confirmed that they work. Now, they don't quite grasp how they work, but they actually have validated that they have health benefits for people. So failure of conventional healthcare to understand all of this is really putting you in harm's way. And we see that. We see here in the United States and in most of the developed world that healthcare has risen to the number 3 killer. So pharmaceutical healthcare, allopathic healthcare, and that was not their intent. I don't think this is a scheme. I think what it is, it's when you're on the wrong track, you never get on the right track until you change. And they've got to now take into account, yes, biochemistry is significant, but not as important as the underlying current and frequencies that govern your well-being, health, and longevity. So we will now talk a little bit about what we're doing here right now as we speak. 5 days, 7 days from today, we're bringing in a gentleman from Italy who is the world's leading authority on taking plants, gaining the harmonic frequencies from the plant. We're going to take 8 different plants. Wheatgrass will be at the head and be actually the conductor, and conduct a concert here on the Hippocrates campus. We already have hundreds of people signed up, and we look forward to you coming out to the campus if you're local by. The age of consciousness. This is what I'm most excited about. So everyone's talking about AI, it's going to take over the world and all of this nonsense. AI, if it's improperly used, could be a problem. But when properly used, it's going to liberate humanity. And here's why I know this. Because when humans first arrived on the planet Earth, we were nomadic people, we were primal people. We weren't intellectual, we were instinctual. And instinctual actually means connecting with that biofrequency field that connects you to all else to the planet to the universe, and the multiple universes. And that's what's going to happen, because we already are at the point, and if you don't know this, really look into this deep into your heart, where the smartest woman, the smartest man in the room is AI. And when I had a professor come through the program here 5 years ago, he stunned me. I said, now I'm going to get up in front of groups all over the world and speak about this and write about it. What can I say? He said, well, Einstein, who obviously everyone knows was relatively smart, right now we're at 1,000 times more intelligence than Einstein. He said, but 2.5 years, that was 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, every month we'll become 1,000 times smarter than Einstein. Why? Because we got humans out of the way. So AI is now programming itself, so the frail, less intelligent, less capable, and less imaginative human no longer slows down the AI. Now, when we have the smartest guy in the room making the really big decisions, it gives us time and the ability to go back to our instinct. And what's missing in our culture and society today is instinct. We're all using our minds without the power to do so, and we make very bad decisions. Not only bad decisions about our well-being, about who we select to be partners with through our life, the work that we do throughout our life, where we choose to be, what our contribution is. I promise you, if we just let go of the old and foster in the new and embrace the new, we are going to be a totally renewed humanity and get to a point where oneness will be reality rather than a dream. So the age of consciousness is a good thing. Biofrequency medicine. So this is something that I just mentioned we've been using for 45 years at Hippocrates. I don't know any other institution on the planet that does it. But the most important biofrequency medicine we use is raw, organic, plant-based foods. So we're nature, the universe, if you will, the multiple universes, God, if you will. All of that together, and I believe in all of it, basically came to this conclusion is that where we keep the body's biofrequency field, energy field, cell field high and youthful and vigorous and vital, so that it, by the way, wards off disorder, the darkness, the lack of energy, is by giving food that is alive. Now, I know that the plant-based movement's big and veganism's big, but you've got to take a quantum leap now. Cooking food destroys the energy field of the food, and by the way, even makes it disease-causing. I know that good-natured, wonderful, highly intelligent, well-educated doctors are going to tell you something different, but they're lagging behind, unfortunately. They're not in the world of new science that we've been in since 1956. And so I'm welcoming them, not condemning anyone, to join us and look at the conscious work that we've been doing clinically here on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people for all of those 70 years. Biofrequency medicine is one of the things we do when people walk in. What you see right in front of you now, every single guest here on the campus gets a test within an hour after they arrive, and this is showing how their body's organ systems are working, energy fields are working, how their brain is working, as you notice, how much energy is going into sympathetic versus parasympathetic. This is more revealing than anything else. How is the energy moving? Let's just stop at that one slide. How's the energy moving up and down the neurological system? Remember, the neurons, you have two types of cells in the brains. Glial cells, half, and neurons, the other half. When you're listening to me now and understanding what I'm saying, it's neurons that are doing that. But it goes from the head down. So if I'm saying something really exciting or I'm yelling like this, you may feel it in other parts of your body. Why? Because the brain is now giving a message to the hands, to the heart, to the body. If you start dancing, you start singing, it's giving a message. If you're laying and sleeping, it's giving a message. And look at this person. This happens to be an exceptionally good situation. That individual has very high energy field in all areas of neurology, going from their heads to their toes. You know how rare that is? Maybe 1 in 2,000 people. So that's why we like to show. Over here, a lot of the people in New Age movements use auras to talk about spiritualistic things. Nothing wrong with that. But what we do is use it for diagnostic and energetic tools to see the state of the person's well-being. Are they all in the heart? Instinctual. Are they all in the head? Intellectual. Why do they, by the way, have a particular disease? So subtle energetics and diagnosis is really currently the best way to look at people overall, and it will be used more in the future once we get the money out of medicine. That's for sure, because this is an inexpensive and effective way. If you look over there on the screen, you're going to actually see one of the things we do just from the fingers. You say, well, how is this possible? That's what my doctor said it's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It's impossible for them to have a large enough imagination to understand it, but it's not impossible. This is cutting edge science. This is really where science is today. So if your doctor is not employing this, holistic or not, they're out of the loop. This is where we are and where we need to continue to go and grow. And as we put brain trust into this, it's going to be more remarkable. We also know that emotions are central to all of the energetic fields of the body, how well you are, how sick you are, and why we have our main focus here, psychotherapy, deep look into self, affirmative thought, is because we have recognized since 1980, when Anna Marie and I became directors, that unless we change a person's view of reality, we don't change the biology, because everything is one large soup of frequency. And so our comprehensive cancer program, by the way, is run by a PhD, MD, who, by the way, spends her whole time with people with stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 cancer, talking them into visualizing themselves well, which is the most important medicine I've ever used in my 55 years of work. So we know this is good. And today, love, gratitude, and forgiveness is something we teach. I just walked out of a team meeting here with my staff, and I said, those three things. We need to learn to have more love, more gratitude, more forgiveness. Have you ever felt better than when you let go and forgave? Never. So can't you wonder how wonderful it would be to be in that state all of the time? And so within just a few minutes, 5 minutes, you can alter the immune system this way by 40%. Not because we think so, we know so. So hopefully you can click on and order Quantum Human. This is my newest contribution, my most exciting book that I've written in many, many years, as far as I'm concerned. All of them are important, or I wouldn't write them. And this year, we're actually working on how to thrive in the 21st century. So we can look forward to that by the end of 2025. Now, all of you out there ready to have me answer questions, I'm ready to do so. We hope that we can answer all of these over time. We're going to spend more time on this because our worldwide community is important to us. If we band together, we can change humanity in a positive way. First question. So after 30 years of unhealthy habits and eating animal meat, what is the best first step in transitioning to a healthier lifestyle? So I have to break this categorically. If people are really sick, this has to be very rapid. You immediately adopt the Hippocrates program in an orthodox way. If people say, I just don't want to get sick, I don't want to age prematurely, I don't want to have pains and suffer, give yourself a realistic 1-year plan. This is why we have Hippocrates programs. Because when you come here and we have our medical team, our psychological team, our beautiful tropical acreage, it's a resort setting, you can swim, you can lay in the sun, it's easy to make that transformation. But from home, let's say you're eating meat, as I used to, every single meal. I never did eat meat. I thought meat was a necessity in meals. So in a year, you can basically say, okay, the first month I'm going to get rid of one of those meals. So now you're only eating meat 2. The next month, you're going to get rid of it in 2 of the meals. The next month, you're going to get rid of it all of the meals. So by the 4th month now, you're actually going to be replacing meat, if you're not ill, with something that's a healthy meat substitute. And there's so many of these today. Everything from quinoa burgers to more healthy nut loaves that are raw that we make here and serve all of the time, even with gravy on top of it. So it makes that bridge, that transition. By the 6th month, now you're eating more and more raw food. Remember, raw food is the only one that has all of the amino acids, proteins, all of the vitamins, all the essential fatty acids that are not carcinogens because we cook them, all of the hormones, the oxygen, the phytochemicals, the enzymes, all of the minerals. All of these things are very important, and they're only in food that's raw, organic, and uncooked. So now start to do things like use Hippocrates recipe books, healthful cuisine. And by the way, a new edition is going to come out very soon of quantum cuisine. That's state-of-the-art 21st century cuisine that our longtime chef and my wife, the co-director, Anna Marie, are penning as we speak. And now you give yourself the objective to be at least 80% raw by the end of the year. And then hopefully the next year you take at least 3 to 6 months where you're 100% raw. Get to that place where you readjust your psyche, your emotions, and your biology. Once it becomes congruent and works together, then we basically can go and have balance at that state and unify with the multiple universes. How can we eliminate gallstones in the liver ducts without doing olive oil and grapefruit flushes? There's many different ways to take this out. There's different minerals that you can dissolve and salts, sodium, not sodium that you would be eating on the thing, but we call cell salts. And look these up and get into them. Also, if a person can find ripe, you have to find ripe organic grapefruits or ripe organic tomatoes, you must gorge yourself on them. I mean, gorge. If you want a pound, eat 2 pounds. If you want two, eat four. If you want four, eat eight. And that takes out all of the waste from your gallbladder and liver. Now, you wouldn't do that, by the way, if you were very emaciated or sick, and I would find a healthcare professional that can guide you with that. 39-year-old son has been colorblind and without a sense of smell for much of his life. Can this be reversed? In many cases, it can. Usually, when you have a problem with sensing smell of any type, and it's a long-term lack of omega oils. And so I would start with that. And the best one is Zino, Zino, which is out of Norway, an algae-based one. And I would go right to the top of the heap on that one and start that and get a monthly prescription. As far as colorblind, Dr. Bates, a century ago, a medical doctor, realized that a lot of people, because we were using our eyes in an abnormal way compared to our human ancestors, just looking like this, reading, not outside, not looking all over the place, we're losing their ability to have sight that was good and strong, as well as color in it. And so the Bates eye method is something I strongly, strongly advise. And here on the campus, our medical team actually advises from a company that you have to go through a doctor to get this, a progressive doctor, orthomolecular, something called FOUR, the number 4, not FOUR, sight. So the next thing we're going to be answering now, what practical steps can we take to our daily lives to strengthen our biofrequency fields, and how would this benefit us? Number one, spend time in nature. Now let's explain what that means. In civilized countries like Japan, medical doctors, not alternative doctors, can write prescriptions for people to do something called forest walking. So yes, if you're in Japan and a citizen, your government says medical doctors can put a prescription that you can leave work for half an hour a day or even more and walk in the forest. Why? They understand the benefits. If you're near water that's clean, an ocean, a lake, a river, a stream, immerse yourself in it. If all you have is a pool, make sure it's not chlorinated. Our pools here are not chlorinated on the campus, all of our pools. And if we don't do it, you don't have to do it. And swim. Also, get yourself into a habit of taking your shoes off. The other night I was interviewing a longtime friend of mine who's been a progressive, very effective doctor for 35 years. He just spent all day on a computer and counseling people for 8 hours. And when I spoke to him and interviewed him for half an hour, he was walking with bare feet on the grass. It sounds silly, but guess what? It works. You ground yourself. Also, meditation, prayer, and contemplation. They're all pretty much the same thing. They get you to focus, shut the noise off, and you tune in. You remember what I just said 6 minutes ago, that after 5 minutes of prayer, meditation, or contemplation, your immune system develops by 40%. Not because we think so, but we know so. That's science today. What do you suggest cancer patients who have done some conventional therapies, chemo, many alternative treatments, but none have eliminated the tumor? Well, you have to understand that conventional cancer treatments today give you cancer. So there's nobody out there listening, including 5-year-old children that are listening, that do not know radiation creates tumors. So someday we'll grow to the point where we won't be doing something that's damaging. That, by the way, the country of Australia did a study on this and published it a number of years ago, where they looked globally at all the use of chemotherapy and said it only works 2% of the time, meaning 98% of the time it doesn't work. So that may be part of the problem, but it may be the alternative treatments you're doing are just little drops in the bucket. Most alternative doctors give you chemical supplements. That alone gives you disease. Most alternative doctors don't radically shift your lifestyle and diet and deal with your mind, which is the most important things. And most alternative doctors don't tell you that aerobic exercise allows you to heal yourself 3 times faster. These are some of the things among hundreds and hundreds of others we do here on the campus since 1956. So you may want to look into coming to Hippocrates, or at least learning more about the oldest organization in progressive healthcare on the planet does. What should a young woman do for PCOS? Well, you have to understand that hormones are a big deal. And they're a big deal for everyone today because we have so many chemicals, so many pollutants in the air, the water, our clothing. If you're still wearing things like polyester and nylon, you're in trouble. They're going to give you hormone problems. If you're eating animals, that's a perfect way to whack out your hormones. So my strong suggestion is go on a plant-based diet. The more raw, the better. Always organic. Get rid of the polyester, everything. Get rid of the nylon, everything. It has to be organic underwear and at least natural fiber. The suits I'm wearing, this is an organic shirt I'm wearing. This is a cotton suit I'm wearing. My undergarments for 50 years have been organic. Yes, they're easy to find. They're not in your local store. You just have to get on the internet unless you have an organic store close by. These are the things you must do. And I assure you, you're going to change. You may also want to look into finding a very well experienced bioidentical hormone doctor. What can you recommend? Tooth infections. Something can replace antibiotics, obviously, as infection is bad. Thank you very much. About 25, 30 years ago, Anna Marie and I worked with the largest herbal company in the world to create a product that really, really, really helps. It's called PerioScript. It's from a company called BioBotanical. It's an American company. BioBotanical PerioScript. You also can brush your teeth, but I prefer the script because after you use a water pick, that's how I clean my teeth. Much more effective than brushing. The water pick, and then you swash or swish, I should say, around your mouth the perio script, which is a liquid. And if you are traveling, you may want to take the perio paste and make sure your toothbrush, now they have little devices that are inexpensive. You put the head of your toothbrush in, it disinfects it constantly. It takes 2 minutes and you disinfect it. What can you recommend for tooth problems? I can tell you again, it is really important you clean up your mouth because it's linked to cancers, linked to heart attacks and strokes, not because we suspect it does, we know it does. How can I use frequency to dissipate tumors in the phenal area? Well, again, you have to be in an area with doctors who are knowledgeable about this. And we have in our advanced comprehensive cancer program here units that are unique to the United States that we brought in from Europe because of Vithermia, our partner. We can utilize them under FDA protocol here. Again, in our energy medicine department, we have the latest technology like Tesla, not the car, but this is something that takes the neurological system, affects it with the brain that activates the immune function of the body. So frequencies are important. And another great frequency besides the food I mentioned to you is you get out into the sun early in the morning before 9 o'clock and 2 hours before sunset year round. Natural fiber clothes are as nude as you can possibly be. So this is a person who came through our health educator program. Congratulations. This is our army of love that took the time to learn deeply about what we've been teaching here and doing here for all these decades, for more than half a century, and they went out into the world back in 2018. One of the greatest things I've experienced and hope to get back there at some point. What do you suggest a woman do to support herself during perimenopause? Well, perimenopause, so the men out there and some of the women know, is premenopause. And off the shelf in every good health store, you have something called Vitex. Vitex is a berry that literally takes care of maybe 60% of the women. That's number one. And if you're not on a very clean diet, although you've been through the program, you're going to have more problems. And the more they probably are not eating animal foods, but the more animal foods you eat with their hormones, you're going to have a very deep PMS problem. You're going to have a perimenopause. And all of these things add up to being psychological and problematic. Now, in the worst cases, I'll repeat what I just said about 6 minutes ago, that people need to find a very well-seasoned, not a lot of these holistic doctors who went to a weekend program and claim that they're experts on hormones. Somebody who's done it 20 years, 30 years, before it was popular. So bioidentical hormones can help to really make that transition so that you never lose your youth or vitality or vigor or mentality, and you don't lose your sexuality, which is the most important to me, your libido. Can one reverse blocked arteries? Absolutely. That's one of the easiest things I've ever seen. When you go to mainstream physicians and they say you can't do it, you need to put in stents, which fail in 1.5 to 2 years on average. When people say, the holistic docs make a lot of money on chelation therapy, which is a chemical, what we say is the old, basic, natural way. Eating a very clean, astringent diet, plant-based obviously, is going to do it. Now, we have supplementation. We created one that is a maximum best on the planet called Life Give, and it is cardio, and it is amazing. It actually develops nitric oxide in the body. And when you take this along with a clean diet and movement and exercise, you'd be shocked how the things they tell you can't do are done. Matter of fact, most people I've worked with in the 55 years I've done this were told by some expert they couldn't do it. And they did it. Oh, it's just amazing. Drum experience. After 3 years of inspiring raw food lifestyle, I discovered you 3 months ago, and you opened great info for great diet. One question: my teeth are sensitive due to excessive fruit eating. This is a big, big problem. Now, this was a learning experience for me. It was the easiest thing to become a raw fooder back in the 1970s, early 1970s when I did, because I, like all of you, were a flaming sugar addict. And so I just switched eating, honey and brown sugar, and we didn't have agave syrup then, but now it would be agave syrup, and all of those bad condensed sugars into eating large amounts of bananas. When I discovered banana ice cream, I thought I died and gone to heaven. I really died and went to hell, because I would take 20 bananas and smush them up and say, hey, there's a bowl of ice cream. No, it was 20 bananas. And all of those things are unripened. Now, one of the things we've been teaching here that sadly the more intelligent alternative doctors haven't quite grasped, all, including organic fruits, are picked unripened. They cannot pick ripe fruit, put it in a package, and ship it somewhere to sell. So all of it's picked unripened. You may have noticed globally, there's been a commercial floating around for the last 5 years or so where dentists say even healthy food destroy the teeth. That's what happened to you, love. It's the unripened fruit has a major high acidity, eats the enamel off, and then starts to pit the tooth. And when you start to pit the tooth and eat the enamel off, they become very, very sensitive. So cut out the fruit. I don't eat fruit. Fruit is not part of my diet at all. And I know that counters a lot of the so-called experts, but seemingly what they're saying isn't working. And this is one of thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of examples I can talk about with the 300,000 people I've worked with. And I can assure you, you're not going to miss anything. And it's sad because I do believe original food of man was a great part fruit. But when we started to mess with fruit thousands and thousands of years ago, we started to hybrid it to have more sugar. And then when it became commercial, you didn't walk along as a nomad, and the fruit that dropped from a tree or a bush you picked up and ate before the bird did. Now some guy 3,000 or 7,000 miles away is growing fruit, and they pick it 3 months early. You're in trouble. Do you have any advice on someone under 24 struggling with low energy levels? Sure. There's got to be a reason for low energy level. First thing that always comes to my mind is emotions. So are you happy? Are you happy with your circumstance, your situation, your work, your love life? If you're a mother or father, is everything going well with that? I'm a vegan, but what kind of a vegan? Are you eating all cooked food? What we know is cooked food really doesn't help the bioterrain, meaning the gastrointestinal tract's bacteria. What we do know is 90% of your psychology, happiness or unhappiness, energy or no energy, comes from healthy bacteria in the gut. And what we do know is what nature, God, and the universe intended is raw, organic, plant-based food. Because one of the things we've seen here is a side effect with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. When they've not had energy, they get energy. And that's what we say. So you get on the right diet, the raw food, the Hippocrates diet, which no longer is suspect to question. You know, after you've used something for 70 years and it's been effective across the board, as we sit here and speak, there's 3 people in our current program. We're filled with people from all over the world that all of them 20 years ago or more were told they were going to die by doctors. One had 8 different maladies. One was told by the top doctors in America, the top in Boston, 7 times she was going to die over the last 6 years. And the other one had stage 4 colon cancer that I had speak to the cancer patients here in our comprehensive cancer program the other day. And she said, I had to be brave to go against what the doctor said. And if I did what they said, I would have been the 0 success rate they had with that type of cancer. None of them had energy. None of them had it. One of them just laid in bed the whole week, first week or 2 weeks she was here, till the program started to kick in. So recognize you don't have to be asking questions and wondering how to do this. We have the answers. And this is not a sense of arrogance. It's a sense of confidence from a massive amount of experience and clinical science that we do here. So what do you suggest to cancer patients who have done some conventional therapies? We've already answered that one. Basically, most people that came here, and by the way, got well, 7 out of 10, have done conventional treatment in the past. And in spite of it, not because of it, in spite of it, the program renewed their bodies, renewed their soul, renewed their spirit. And by the way, they came back to life, like the 3 people I just mentioned. Any recommendations for someone suffering extreme anemia? Of course, eat a plant-based green diet. Green, 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 green. Get on the internet right now. There's a famous gal who, by the way, had anemia her whole life because she ate meat. Why? Because doctors told her to eat meat for anemia. I can assure you, you don't want anemia, then don't eat meat. Meat will give you anemia. And so where do the animals get healthy blood? Greens. Where do you get healthy blood? Greens. There's not a second answer. It's always greens. It's amazing to me how many highly educated people don't know very much out there. Any advice for people living with HIV virus? Absolutely. We used to have exclusive HIV programs here where nobody was on campus except people that were in the conquest of that disease. And so what we do know is, like any virus, it just became a really scary virus. And why it became scary? Because they didn't know how to make money on it. So they didn't know how to shut it down. So they threw all kind of nonsense. They first had a drug that had been taken off the market for cancer that was costing $1,900, $2,000 a month. Nobody could afford. They gave that to AZT to people. That didn't work. Then they got the cocktails and they talked about all the successes. They didn't talk about that 3/4 of the people were sick and dying at the same rate. But now, by the way, pharmaceuticals do have, at times, good things happen. And they have now a way to suppress the body so that you can make intimacy with people and not spread the virus. And not everyone is dying from it. Now, I'm not saying these drugs don't have major side effects. So we put you on major lysine. We put you on the diet that boosts the immune system. Who gets sick from any disease, including HIV, have low immune system. Who gets well from any disease are people who have strong immune system. Who live the longest, have the longest lifespan, are people with strong immune system. Our whole focus here is strengthening your immune system. We don't have to replicate nature, God, and the universe. That the immune system is there for us to support. And that's how you get well. So, I mean, it's just, to me, sad that all of you are subject to all of this nonsense out there called, professionalism, which is not professional in most cases. My daughter's doc found a lump in her breast. Is there an alternative to a biopsy? Absolutely. We've been using it here for a couple of years. It's called a Gallery test. Now, don't go to a mainstream doctor and expect him or her to do it because it's not standard of practice. Look it up. Gallery test. And find a real doctor who remembers the oath she or he took. Do no harm. Because anyone with a bit of common sense, you don't even have to be that bright. You could be highly educated, not that bright. Know that when you poke into a bag of rice and you slit it open, it spills out, and that's called cancer cells. And this is why, by the way, most people have real problems with cancer advancing from stage 1 to stage 4 rapidly, and because you're spilling it. So this is more accurate than even a biopsy. Gallery test. Just, science lags, so that all of you know this, all of science, including medical science, lags 25 to 30 years behind. So if we find today a way to reverse a catastrophic disease permanently, it won't be employed for a minimum of 30 years. And if the bad guys that make money on you being sick have their way, it will never be employed. So stem cell therapy effect in healing multiple sclerosis. Not at this point. I can't say that. One of the books I wrote last year called How to Live to 120, my co-author, who's been a long-time doctor, as long as I've been a progressive doctor, he's been a mainstream doctor. We did a really deep dive into stem cells. So what we would use for that is exosomes, which we do right here on the campus, in the same place you get hyperbaric oxygen and advanced high wattage red light therapy and all kind of major things that you can do to knock fat off the body without any problem. You don't need Ozempic because it's going to destroy your health in the long run. And so, yeah, you can do these things and they're easy to find, but you have to make sure you go to the right people. Going to a mainstream doctor and asking about progressive thing is like me going to a wall and asking it to talk to me. Here's somebody from New Jersey. Well, God bless you. It must be nice and warm up there today. My husband and I were at Hippocrates last summer. Do you know anything that can help lower platelets? Yeah. Something we've been using for a long time that we learned from our Jamaican friends is actually papaya leaf extract. I'll say it again, papaya leaf extract. And that's something you can get from our shop. We found the best, strongest one in the world. And it is amazingly helpful in this, more than Plavix and all this other nonsense they're going to tell you. What would you be a good home device to invest in? Now, what depends upon what you're using for. What is it for? So to heal energetic. One of the most effective, lower cost ones that we have is actually called a Komra, Russian devices. They have 3 or 4 technologies in it. That's handheld. If you want the Rolls Royce today, it's the Tesla unit that actually organizes the neurons and neurological system, sympathetic and parasympathetic, so you're not in fight and flight all of the time. And once you're not in fight and flight, the immune system starts to function. You start to feel balanced. When people come off this machine, it's like they've just made love. It's amazing. Every day I'm hearing that, wow, I feel amazing. I feel young. I feel youthful. That's where we're heading in medicine. That's what Quantum Human, the book's about. You speak to why you like BrainTap. Well, BrainTap is an amazing technology. I'll explain it to you. A number of years ago, we worked with a physicist out of Harvard, and we brought in a unit here that actually took the brain and calmed it down so that it helped the immune system function at its maximum level. And we worked with that and saw the benefit of it. About 6, 7 years ago, a friend of mine called me and said, a doctor just created something called BrainTap that actually does something similar to the original technology. Now, it's a little bit different because it's less expensive and it's mobile now. This can be generated right off your phone. And what I love about it, we brought him in. I never trust anyone, so that you know that at the beginning. I'm a trusting person, but you have to earn my trust. And the fact is, I thought, how does this little tiny thing do what he's claiming it does? We brought him in, spent a week, had all our doctors shake him down, talk to him, challenge him. He gave all the right answers. He lectured to us, lectured to the guest here, and we adapted his technology called BrainTap. And it has been remarkable. Just to show you how the universe gives us messages sometimes. I was still, it was brand new. We had employed it for a week. And one of the guests came in and had us all crying here in our common area called Wigmore Hall. And why we cried, she said, since I was a little girl, I don't remember a time I didn't wake up every hour. That means after 60 minutes of sleep, she'd wake up. She couldn't go to sleep for another hour. So she would sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, and had done so. She was 65, 66 years old, I think, at the time, her whole life. She said, I went on the BrainTap yesterday one time, remember. Now, this is not happening to everyone, so don't think I'm suggesting that. But in her case, she slept for 8 hours for the first time in her memory. This is what we're seeing with this. When you organize the brain, and get the brain to focus and get rid of the noise, magic happens. And you can make magic happen, and technology will help you today. And AI is going to liberate us. And let me assure you that all of you can move into the new generation we're moving in without fear, because fear is your greatest enemy. I'm going to be talking to you really soon. If you haven't had your questions answered, please send them. We're going to attempt to answer them. And sometime what I'll actually do is take a moment to write a book to answer just questions for people. It's one of my favorite things I do. God bless all of you. Be well and enjoy the first quarter of the 21st century.